Testing, 1, 2, 3. Hopefully this is working right like it should. You know. Anyway, this is the podcast for Saturday. What is today? This is the month is really flying by, really. It's Saturday, March 23rd. Already almost the end of the month. So it's really flying by really quick. Anyway, now I decided to do this one as a video and audio. So that if you want to go to YouTube, you can watch this one on YouTube. And if you don't want to watch me on YouTube and on live on video, I'm getting all tangled up here. I thought I was getting it unwrapped, and I'm getting it wrapped more. Anyway, I'm going to try to get comfortable here so I can. I know I should have done this before. But that's just the way it works sometimes. I'm not organized. Anyway, I decided to go ahead and do it both audio and video. I'm recording the audio track through the camera, and I'm just hoping that I can use that track in GarageBand. I can take that out of of the movie and use it in GarageBand, so I can use it as a podcast track, an audio track, just for the podcast, the audio podcast. This is going to be on YouTube, but it's going to be a private. As far as I know, it's going to be private. I don't know. It depends on how it turns out. If it turns out bad, it'll probably be private, but if it turns out okay, then maybe it won't. I don't know. Anyway, let's see, what has been going on lately? I have a Pope. I think I said something maybe in the last podcast. Pope Francis. I tweeted about that the other day. I really think, that Benedict did the Catholic Church a favor by resigning. It was like everybody was holding their breath. We couldn't breathe because of all of the scandals that were going on in the Catholic Church. And then all of a sudden you could exhale and you could breathe again. And it was as if Benedict was taking all that baggage that the church had collected over the years with these sex predators in the church, molesting boys, taking it with him, and it was like he was taking the sins away, And Francis, I'm impressed with him. I'm pretty sure that I'm, going to find a lot of fault in things that he believes, but he believes in the Word of God, and he believes the Word of God has negative things to say about certain issues. I look at the Bible as words of men, that men who may have actually believed that they were talking or speaking for God, but that they were men basically who had their own prejudices based on their understanding of humanity at the time. There was an understanding of homosexuality back then, back in biblical days. They didn't have the kind of scientific research that we have today, to the point where people have ruled out it being some kind of mental disease. And as far as genetics and everything, I personally myself think it's environmental and a little bit of genetics too. But there's a lot of environmental involved in it. But, it doesn't really matter. What you are is what you are. And but there are people that want to moralize the issue, and, and back in that day, maybe there was a reason for that, because you were wanting for the humanity to spread, that there to be more and more people. And now that there are more people than this world can apparently sustain, um, we don't have that argument anymore that, we're worried about, zero population growth or anything. I don't think we have to worry about that. Even gay people want to have children. So, but anyway, so that's how I feel. But, I feel Francis is a breath of fresh air to the Catholic Church, and I'm impressed by what I've seen so far from him. And, we'll just have to see how it goes. And I'm not a Catholic. I'm not a Christian. I'm just a plain old person that has doubts about whether or not there's really anything after life. But I'm open to somebody persuading me that there's something more to this life than just, day-to-day living. I don't see it, but, if you do, and it makes you a happier person to believe that there's something after this life, then that's fine. I don't have any problem with that. Some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life have been good Christian people. So, and I've met some, or know of some Christian people that I don't think are nice at all. They're probably very evil people. And some who masquerade behind a church that really are not serious about their beliefs. It's just mainly a cover for them. But anyway, so I guess that's all I want to say about that. As far as most of you who follow my tweets, know the minute details of what goes on in my life. If you don't follow the tweets, you probably don't get that. And sometimes I may omit things because I assume that I've said them, because I know that I say a lot in the tweets that kind of fill in the gaps between the podcasts. And if you don't read the tweets, you probably miss out on some things. I try to fill you back in when I do the podcast on Saturdays so that those of you who don't follow the tweets will kind of get it. And then some of you might say, we're just repeating the same thing you've already told me. What's the point in listening to this? That's fine if you want to just follow the tweets and not listen to the audio podcast, or if you don't want to watch video or whatever, that's cool too. But, I just don't want anybody to miss out. So, that's why I try to keep you informed of that stuff too. Anyway, so what happened the other day, what was it? It wasn't yesterday. Yesterday was Friday. It was Thursday. I had come home from work, and at some time I watched American Idol replay. I tape it on Wednesday. And so I watched Wednesday's American Idol Thursday afternoon when I got home from work, fixed me something to eat, and proceeded to watch TV. And I think I'd already gotten through that. I had already eaten and everything, and I was probably watching ID. I can't remember what I was watching. No, I was playing some music. I got tired of watching ID because it seems like lately every story that comes on is something I've already seen. So I started playing some music on the thing, and then the doorbell rang, and I thought at first that maybe they're finally coming to pick up the car, but that wasn't anybody. It was a really good looking younger black guy, and he looked like he was in his early 20s or something, and I could tell he was probably selling something. I looked out the window first and noticed him, and then I opened the door and held the door open. I thought, I could see something that says AT&T uverse, and I had already talked to them people a while back. I had somebody come by and offer to try to get me to subscribe to uverse, and I turned it down because it was, one, it was too expensive, and the other, it just, I was happy with the service that I have through Charter, and I really want to make a change. And so I, basically mouthed those same reasons for me not wanting to change to this new guy. But we talked for a long time. He was real persuasive. And, I think we talked a lot longer because I was attracted to him. And very good looking, athletic, preppy. I wouldn't say he had Caucasian. He was definitely black, but he was kind of light skinned, but he didn't look like to me there was a mix or anything, but he was very good looking. I have definite preferences about, white, black, whatever, Indian, whatever. You have a sense of what you find attractive in all races. And he was very athletic, strong, masculine, personable, cute. So we talked for a long time and everything. And so I told him, I left him saying, if you want to come back in a couple of months, maybe, I'll change my mind about it. But right now, I just really don't want to do anything. It's too much trouble. I don't want to make any changes. So he left, and I saw him checking some other places, the lady next door who was not home. And so I just went about my business and didn't really think about it anymore. And later on, and that was in the afternoon, I don't know, maybe 2 o'clock or something. I don't know how late it was. Might have been 3, I don't know. But anyway, so I go about my business and do my thing and everything, get ready. I decided that I was going to stay up and watch the results show on Thursday night. That was Thursday night, Thursday afternoon when he came by. Thursday night, I was watching American Idol results. I was already into maybe the first 30 minutes of the show when the doorbell rang. So I thought, well, this is strange. Somebody was coming up at 7:30. The sun had already, I think, had gone down by then, or it was nearly getting dark. So I opened the door, and it was him again, the black guy with uverse. And, kind of stumbling around with his words. And, and I'd already talked to a guy on Adam for Adam and told him about it. And he said, and said, he's real cute and all this kind of stuff. I really thought he was nice looking. And the guy on Adam for Adam said, well, why didn't you, make a move on him? And I said, well, he might have been offended or something if I'd have done something like that. He said, you should have made a move on him. If he comes back, you should make a move on him. Which, I never thought I would see him again. I saw him walking down the neighborhood after he left the first time, but, I never thought I would see him again that day. After I told him that, come back in a couple of months, maybe I'll change my mind. But anyway, so when he came back that second time, I was sort of surprised. It was kind of awkward in how he approached it and everything. And so I said, well, do you want to come in and sit down and talk to me? And he said, yeah, okay, I will. And he came in and he sat down on the couch over there, and the TV was on. It was American Idol, like I said. And he sat down, and at first I left a space between us on the couch. I sat on the couch too, but I left a little space between us. And then, all of a sudden I hear that guy on Adam for Adam going, next time make a move. And so I thought, well, hell, he's come back. It's kind of strange that he would come back. Maybe he sensed something. Maybe there is some kind of something going on here, and I'm just too stupid. I just don't want to believe it or whatever. And so I moved over right next to him, and I thought, okay. And I even got bold enough to push this leg here. He would have been on that side. I pushed this leg up against, I had jeans on. I pushed my leg right up against his leg. He was in khakis. And I pushed my leg up against his, so it was firmly kind of pressing against his. And he was talking and stuff, and about, we could do this, and, you could get this and this for this and all this kind of stuff. And so I would move my leg kind of rubbing like that, move it up and down a little bit. And I did that 3 times. On the third time, I felt him kind of move away a little bit. So I thought, I'm going to lay off. I'm not going to. But we started talking and everything, and I was telling him, I said, "That's a nice jacket." He was wearing this nice leather jacket. I said, "That's a nice jacket you have." And he said, he thought I think my sister gave that to me, and he was talking about, yeah. And I said, you dress really nice and everything. And he said, well, I want to wear nice clothes, going walking up and down the neighborhood. And I said, well, you dress really nice. You're a really good-looking guy. I repeated that, I think, a few times. And I don't know how he couldn't have known that, and I didn't know what else to do. I wasn't going to, grab him. I did a few times put my hand on his back because he was leaning a little forward from me and I was back. And I put my hand on his back and kind of patted him and kind of rubbed his back a little bit. But, I'm sure he had to have known what was going on. But he never said anything he told me he lived with his parents, where he graduated from college, went to a black school, where he used to work before he worked there, how he had played football in high school, that he wanted to be a personal trainer. We talked about that. I said, well, how much would you charge to do that? And this is something like $25 an hour. And I said, well, I might be interested in something like that, blah, blah, blah. So we were talking about different things like that. It just kept going on for a pretty good while. And finally he says, well, I really do need to get to see another person down here before I go home. And I said, well, that's cool. I said, you can come back anytime you want to. You want to come back and just hang out, that's cool with me. So I was leaving the door open. But I wasn't going to grab him or anything like that or try to make a move on him. I just didn't, I don't feel comfortable with that. Kind of forcing, I don't think that's appropriate. I think he knew that I was interested. And that if he was interested, he, would come back. If he never comes back, then I figure that he's probably thought it over in his mind and he thinks, no, I don't want that. For whatever reason. I don't know. He could be straight, but, he could be, it could be like afraid of all that, A lot of us are when we're younger. We're afraid of all that. And I don't think he's young. He's not like in this teens where he was really dealing with sexuality when you're young, and you become aware of love and sex and all that kind of stuff. That's when you suffer the angst of having these feelings that are considered appropriate by society. And so I think he had probably already got past that. And what teen or young person hasn't heard, about homosexuality by the time they reach high school? All of us know about that. So, and I think that we work through that in our own mind. We work through that. And some of us are held back by the feeling of guilt. So if you're, like a member of the church and you're really religious or something like that, and you're taught that homosexuality is bad and it's not right and all this kind of stuff. So then if you're taught that way, but you have these feelings or, come across somebody like me who, is rubbing your leg and patting you on the back and telling you what a good-looking guy you are and everything, and giving you all these signs that he's interested, the things that might be going through your head, about, well, I'm a Christian and I can't do this. You're thinking to yourself, And so I don't know, if I ever see him again or not. But if I do, that would be cool. Because if I think that if he came back after what went on that time, that he couldn't have been clueless. If he comes back again, he has to have resolved it in his own mind that maybe I might be willing to do something. And I don't know that I could do anything anyway with him because of my status. But it's kind of fun to kind of see if somebody like that is, capable of seeing that side of himself, if it exists. I really personally don't believe that anyone is totally straight or totally gay. I think we fluctuate. There's this straight up and down line where you have a preference, you have an equal preference for males and females. That's true, I guess, bisexuality. And then there's this other where you tilt one way or the other. You're more into men or you're more into women. But I don't think there's anybody that tilts totally, I'm only into men or I'm only into women. I could be wrong about that. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying, it may be me as a homosexual wanting to believe that everybody could go either way. And I think that's what, a lot of Christians believe. I think that's the reason why they preach that it's a choice, because you can be, you can choose to be gay or choose to be straight. It's what they're saying. In other words, if you define being gay or being straight by the sex act alone, then anybody can be gay or straight. Because I could have sex with a woman. That doesn't mean that I'm straight. And a guy that's normally interested in women could have sex with a guy. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're homosexual. They may have a homosexual sex act, but that don't make them homosexual. The thing that makes you either homosexual or bisexual or heterosexual or whatever, in the way that I defined them a minute ago, is whether or not you are constantly thinking about that sex. This is something, it's a preoccupation. That you dwell more over into homosexuality, or you dwell more over into heterosexuality. And, if those thoughts are more one way or the other, then I think, you have these feelings that are beyond sexual feelings. Those feelings that can make you think, I could actually love somebody of the same sex. If you feel that way, then I think you have to admit to yourself, although there are people that won't, but because of whatever reason, then you have to admit to yourself that you are gay or you are straight. And apparently in this society, there's nothing shameful about admitting that you're straight. It's only shameful if you're admitting that you're gay. There's still all this prejudice that exists out there, and probably continue to exist because it's just our society. It'll exist to a lot of these older people that have these attitudes that are ingrained in them all through their lifetime, are incapable of letting go of those things because it's so scary to them. And I think that's one of the reasons why we have these politicians that are in office that stand in the way of progress. I tweeted yesterday out of frustration that the Republicans seem to think somehow that they won the last election. And, and they won the election in 2008 also. And they've stood in the way constantly of allowing Barack Obama to implement his policies. And I think that's wrong. I would feel that same way about the election of a Republican administration. I think, and Bush got his way, basically. I don't know that there was anything that Bush didn't get that he wanted. He wanted to go to war in Iraq. He took us to war in Afghanistan. He pretty much got his way. And if the way I see it is, Republicans seem to want to just stand in the way. They're like dinosaurs that want to cling to this old way of believing, these old belief system, and it's a lot of that is I think the church too. It's their religious upbringing and everything. It's just the way they see the world, and I don't know, but to me, they ought to like get out of the way. Let at least, as far as legislation is concerned, if Obama wants certain legislation, at least it ought to be voted on. At least Boehner and the leader of the House of Representatives, he ought to at least allow a vote on these issues. On these amendments, on this legislation, instead of basically blocking it. At least allow it to come up for a vote, and then if he can round up enough people to defeat it, fine. If he can't, then you're representing the will of the people, and if the will of the people had been to give tax breaks to the rich, then Mitt Romney would have won the election, and that's not the take that I come, or the conclusion that I come from by the results of the last election. I think we have to admit, if you're a Republican, you have to admit that this is what they don't want what you believe. They want what he believed. He won. So, stand out of the way and let people vote. That's just, I don't know. I think it'll take, it seems like I keep thinking that with each new generation that comes around, that maybe things will change. But there are too many dinosaurs that hold on to their seats in Congress for way too long. And so to get new blood in there, younger people with fresher ideas and new ways of looking at things, it's going to take a lot, I think, of many more years. I don't think I'll ever live to see, who knows? I may be surprised. Maybe the same thing with the Catholic Church. Maybe Pope Francis will stun everybody and say, we should, all love each other. And if whoever you love and care for, that love should be cultivated in whatever form it takes. Who knows what might come in the next coming months and years? But I'm not sure that anything. I've become jaded with having lived here as long as I have, into just feeling like everything just turns so slowly. The wheels of time and the wheels of justice and equality, equity, none of it seems like it happens fast enough. And so I don't know, I get frustrated, and I feel like sometimes that this system of government just isn't working, and it never will. And there's just too much division, in this country. And, they're always on the right talking about it's our fault that there's division. But, they're the ones that are dividing. The Democrats won the election. They have the Senate and the presidency. And that should be enough. 2 out of 3 offices, executive, House of Representatives, Senate, 2 out of 3 ought to trump the Republican Congress. But it's, they're going to stand in the way, and what do you do about it? I think what the people have to do is they have to voice their disdain for these continual roadblocks that they put up in front of Obama trying to implement his agenda. So that's the way I feel about it. Maybe all of you are not interested in any of that. I've always been kind of political minded from a long time, but I've gotten to the point where I've gotten so frustrated with everything that I've seen over the years that, I still vote, and all that kind of stuff. I think you can't complain if you don't vote. But it still is disheartening when you feel like you've elected somebody that was going to really make change, and then change doesn't come. And you think to yourself, if Obama can't bring change, then who will ever be able to bring change? And so I don't know. It's just really frustrating. Anyway, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out this camera. So, I'm trying to figure out resolution, the proper resolution and all that kind of stuff, and settings and everything. So it may take me a while to get everything where the main thing, the reason for buying the camera was to be able to record the audio directly onto the video, into the same system, so that it made it a lot easier to do video podcasting instead of having to make a separate track and synchronize them. So, I'm working on that. I don't know how often I'll do video things. I don't know that I'll do them every time I do an audio podcast. This is just an experiment. It may or may not work. If it doesn't, I'll probably just end up recording a separate audio podcast later, probably later today or tomorrow, whatever. But anyway, that's what I want to do. I think I'm going to end it now. I know a lot of people have said, Frank has said, only 30-minute podcast, and he really wants longer podcasts and everything like that. But you have to remember that I've actually dropped down to a lower package from Libsyn because they made me re-sign up, and they don't have the plan that I had. And I didn't want to spend as much money on space that I don't need, or maybe I'm not using. And if I'm not getting, a bunch of downloads and everything, I don't see the point. Apparently, I'm not as popular as some people are. I guess it's just the very nature of the kind of podcast that I do. But anyway, what I hope to do in the future is include you in different things. I'm going to take the camera around as soon as it starts warming up and stays warm and the weather's better. I'm going to take the camera around, probably shoot some video on the road and stuff like that, and maybe even do a video podcast from the car in the mornings when I'm waiting for the offices to open. So, we'll see how everything works. Write me sometime, nickthomaspodcast@gmail.com. Go to the WordPress page, nickthomas.org. Twitter is nickthomaspod, all one word, lowercase. And, kind of join in the conversation. Let me know what's happening. Anyway, I hope all of you have a great weekend. It's rainy here in Pelham. Had some storms earlier tonight, or last night. It woke me up. Raining. I think I've got my leak in around the fireplace stopped. So we'll see how that works. Anyway, all of you have a great weekend. Hope you enjoy everything that happens, and I'll see you all again maybe next Saturday, okay? All right, guys. Bye.